Welcome back to another episode of the Grassroots Tennis Podcast, a platform created to entertain, educate, and grow the game of tennis at all levels. My friends call me Ship, but this show isn't about me. We will be bringing you interviews with coaches, community leaders, and players, along with updates about tennis happening around the world. Tennis is a culture, and we are all writing tennis history together. Today, I am here with Melanie Oudin. Melanie is a former professional tennis player. Just to kind of give some background, she was a world junior #2 and a member of the American Fed Cup team. Some of you may know some of her very famous runs. If you pay attention to the doubles like I do, you would know that she was the 2011 U.S. Open mixed doubles champion. Her and Jack Sock had a super cool run that I feel like was pretty well covered back in the day. Obviously, during her playing career, she's had the opportunity to play all the slams and had some different runs throughout her career, which is obviously exciting. 2017-ish, Melanie retired from playing and has been coaching ever since. Melanie, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me.
So obviously you're someone that has a pretty cool background. You're someone that had a lot of success at a young age. You really got to go into the juniors, and then you chose to go straight pro. You've had the opportunity to play all the slams, but then also now you've been coaching for a while. You're not a rookie anymore. So we're excited to have you on, and for those people that listen to some of our older podcasts, we're extremely happy to get the female perspective. I just feel like there's not enough female coaches out there. So thank you for coming on just in advance. I usually start with kind of some rapid fire stuff. I need to know, what's the racket of choice?
Okay, so this is actually a funny question for me because I'm using the Wilson the Ultra, but it's actually the old Justine Henin racket, the orange and blue one, because a couple of the coaches that I used to work with, they looked at it and they were like, Mel, this is not the actual Ultra. This can't be. And I was like, yeah, I think it is. And they're like, no, 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 this is not the actual one. And I'm like, okay, I guess it was the Justine Henin one. And then, they actually are able to like create it into whatever racket that they need it to be, right? Because
Oh yeah,
they need the pros to be able to play with like the current version of whatever racket
right.
like they're selling. And so I was actually I was able to still get it, which was pretty cool. Because that was the racket that I used to use like when I played. So I still have a couple of them and I'm still hitting with them sometimes. So it's pretty fun to still be able to use it. But yeah, the coaches caught me still using it. They were able to tell
Oh,
that it was the old one.
that's super funny. Do you add extra weight to your frame?
So I've always added weight. I always got them customized. So I think I'm at about like 315, 320
And
grams.
what age did you start adding weight?
I started adding weight when I was young, like 16, 17.
Okay. And do you have a string of choice?
So I always was I used actually all natural gut when I was younger. Like I loved the feel of like all natural gut, and I actually realized that at one point it was like only me and the Williams sisters that were using only all natural gut. And I'm like, man, this is like really expensive. Luckily, I was sponsored by Wilson at the time, so I was getting free string, but still, like I was going through rackets like so quickly. And so during the clay court season, especially, it was just like crazy,
The
like going
balls were
through
so
them.
heavy.
The balls were so heavy, and then like I was breaking strings like so fast because the gut, like it just breaks so fast.
Yeah.
And so then like we made a choice, me and my coach made a choice to go gut in the mains to still have the feel. And then we went Luxilon, the aloe power fluoro, to go in the crosses. So, and that was a nice change. Like, and I actually ended up sticking with that for a while.
No, that's
Yeah.
great. I like to ask this question anytime I get a chance. Could you tell us who was the first person to really kick your butt?
Oh, like ever?
It can be as sometimes people are like, what do you mean? It's like, I always think that first traumatic loss is a great story, but even it could also be like on the pro tour. Like you could give us both perspectives if you want.
Okay, so this actually is pretty crazy because you know who comes to mind with this question is Julie Diddy, which is really just she was such an amazing person that, you know, obviously she passed away. Um, and I actually ended up playing her in Albuquerque, New Mexico, in one of my first pro tournaments. And she was so nice to me. I felt like I never lost 0-0 in my entire life
Yeah.
ever, and I still never lost 0-0. And I felt like she gave me a game. I swear, I felt like she gave me a game, and she felt bad for me. She was so good, and she was so nice. And like we ended up becoming like really close on the tour. We were on the same Fed Cup team together. And yeah, I always like miss her. I thought she was just such an amazing person. But that's really that question. Yeah, that she's the first one that comes to mind. She definitely kicked my butt in that tournament, in Albuquerque. That's so funny.
Yeah, the reflection's crazy. Usually that huge loss is traumatic. There's usually some pain there, but that's what we love about tennis. It's competitive, it's sport, but also that's kind of what we hate. It's really hard to go weeks and weeks without taking a loss. Usually people take losses every week, but that's why we play the game. Um, so obviously you've been coaching for a while now. I'd like to know, what do you feel like a good practice session looks like?
Yes. So I've been coaching now for about it feels like a while, but I guess it's only been like 6, 7 years. Since right before I retired from
With the
playing.
pandemic, it's like an eternity though. So it's really you had like
Yeah.
extra. Yeah.
Yeah. So it feels like um but I mean it's so funny. I say this to people because I thought that I did a really good job in my career, like in my junior career, and my coach did a good job with me of really making my practice sessions very specific for me and my game style. And that's something I feel like is missing in a lot of practices because there are such big academies with such big groups. But I really feel like it's really important to make your practice session like very specific, and it has to have like a specific focus and a specific goal, and like you need to go into it with like one specific focus, specific goal, and like not just I'm just going out there and I'm just going to have a practice and kind of like run through the motions. And like sometimes I feel like that's happening way too often in a lot of like the academies that I'm seeing. Um, and so I just feel like there needs to be a lot more emphasis on like this is the specific practice plan for like this exact, you know, player. And I know that each coach, you can't be one coach to one player. I understand that. Like we don't have that. But I think that you can do, you know, you can add in like this drill is for this player and this drill is for this player and this drill is for this player. Um, so I think it just needs to be a little bit more maybe focused for on individual players' needs is the best way I think to put it.
When a player walks into a practice session where it's more than one player there, could be just a semi-private lesson, two people, anywhere to, a group of like six or even eight, depending on, where they're practicing, what they're doing.
Right.
What can a player do when they walk into a practice that has is more of a group setting to maximize what they're getting out of that practice time?
Well, it's also like it's not the coach's job, right? It's the player's job. So I know, you know, for me, I I talk to the kids a lot about this, and I did this for myself. You know, I was trying to be that example. If I brought the level up in my group, then I felt like, you know, the other kids would try to work as hard as me, right? So if I was trying to be like the hardest worker in the room, right, or the hardest worker in my group, then like the other kids would be like, oh, I want to work as hard as Melanie, or they saw me doing well, they would be like, oh, well, I want to try to do that well too. And so I felt like if I was succeeding, like they would want to succeed, and they saw how hard I was working, they would want to work that hard. And I feel like maybe I'm trying to emphasize that with like a lot of if I'm working with groups or I'm at a camp or something like that. But I don't think we're necessarily seeing that as much as maybe we were in like when I was coming up. But that's something I think that needs to be emphasized more. And like some of the kids, they need to be, it's really about them being more disciplined, right? Like the coach isn't the one that should have to push you for effort and intensity and focus, right? Like that should be coming from the kids. Like that's all things that the kids should be able to control on their own.
It's crazy to say, but I just love when I get the opportunity to work with a player that shows up and just brings that intensity. And I don't have to
Yeah.
ask it or remind it. It's something that it's unfortunate that it's almost they're the outliers now instead of the
Hmm.
expectation. I think all coaches try to make that the expectation, but it's really on the player, to bring that intensity and to bring their best whenever they step onto the practice court. But for those players that are listening, if you want to stand out and you want to stand out to a coach, whether it's your individual coach or you're in a group session or whatever it might be, set the tone, bring that level of intensity, and carry yourself at a high standard, have a high level of expectation. Because when it comes time for maybe you're looking to play college tennis, and if a college coach reaches out to your coach or to someone in your general area and that's what they're hearing about you is like how hard you practice or how serious you are and how disciplined you are, because people talk. I don't think young people don't realize that sometimes, but networking happens and people talk. Let that be kind of the message that people hear about you. Let that be um, what you're known for. And I think that nowadays it's crazy because everyone should be known for that, but they're not. So, yeah. What moving forward though? What do you feel like top junior tennis players should be focused on? It top level juniors.
Like top level juniors as far as like in the nation, or like you mean ITF level, or like looking to go to like high level juniors, like
If you could tell me
looking to
the
go to college.
difference, then you would be the best at breaking this down of anyone who's answered this question. But you don't have to. You can pick one in particular, maybe juniors that are looking to play collegiately. Let's start there because I feel like you can scaffold up from there much easier than it is to scaffold down. If you're looking to play college tennis, what should they be focused on?
I mean, I think, I'm always pushing kids to go to college. Even though I went pro, right, at 16, things are a lot different now than I feel like when I went pro at 16. Um, I feel like a lot of the kids in this generation, specifically also the parents, like there's just not a lot of education out there as far as like what it takes to be a pro tennis player. And now there's a lot more opportunity in college than there used to be. Like with the NIL, and I don't even understand all of it, but like there's more opportunity there. Um, you know, there I feel like there obviously is it's a good thing to go to school and then there's more time there and then trying to play after. There's more kids doing that and having more success after school. So unless you're like 100% ready, I don't feel like it's a bad thing to go to school first. Back to your back to your question. Um, I think like they should be focused on like I what I tell kids is trying to be the absolute best tennis player that you can be. I do always say that you should train like you're trying to go pro. And sometimes some of them look at me like, well, I'm not trying to go pro. I actually want to go to college. And I'm like, well, don't you want to train to be the absolute best? Because
Mm-hmm.
if you don't actually make it as a pro, like college is a great like next best thing, right? Like that's actually a very positive thing is going to school, right? But if you're training to be like pro, which is the highest thing that you can possibly be, like that's the absolute best way to train, right? That's how the best players in the world are training. And so I think like every level should be training to go pro, like or should training like a pro, right? If you're able to, um, whether you homeschooling or regular school, like whatever you're able to do. But focusing wise, and the difference I think is really the mentality. Like, I mean, I know that's what everyone says about the pro level and the college level, but like that's actually the truth to me. It's like the physicality has changed over time since like I was playing. I think it's gotten like everyone's way more physical, the game is way more physical, but the mentality is just different. Everyone is so much tougher mentally now.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great answer. I think we don't talk about it enough, maybe, but there's something to be said about just holding yourself to the highest standard that you're capable of. Having that mindset of, I'm a big believer in manifesting things, or maybe if you want to be the best, it's almost like you have to tell yourself that you are over and
Mhm.
over and over. And some people think that might sound, cocky, or someone might need to get their like hubris in check. But I love that. I love when someone wants to tell me that they are the best at something, or they want to be the best at something. And then what do greats do? They are constantly working to transcend, to improve themselves. They hold themselves to a high standard. They do the extra things. They have all those small habits. They get there early, and they warm up their body before, and they cool down after. And if they've got to leave, they're still getting in extra stretching later. They do what they need to do to take care of their body. You obviously played on tour. What is maybe a piece of advice you could give to young people about how to take care of their body? What will obviously stretch, but are there any,
Mhm.
tricks of the trade, or maybe some advice you could give to people who just want to, even prehab, or did you have any experiences of like, this is a great way to strengthen this or do that? Or what would you say kind of regarding that whole area?
Um, I will say that I hated warming up more than like anybody. They used to call me like the anti-warmer upper. And I, but now like my body is like sore all the time from just playing like one mixed doubles tennis match. Um, and the like back in the day, like it was my body felt so much better when I would do my warm up routine, like full warm up routine, and then like obviously the nutrition, like eating correctly, right? Like before, like all the time, before the tournament, during the tournament, like in between tournaments, after the matches, making sure that I had like protein shake right away, and then like the after match routine. Um, it's the full thing. Like you got to make sure that you're doing the warm up, you're doing the dynamic warm up, you're doing the stretching, like after you're doing the ice baths, you're doing your, you know, prehab like with your arms and you're getting stretched out, and then you're going to like the massage therapist and you're getting enough rest at night. Like there's so many other things that come with just the actual tennis part. You're doing your visualization, like I did that part too. Like you're having, your time to yourself to get focused. You're not letting anything else like distract you. Like there's so many other parts to it, to making sure that you're fully prepared for the matches during tournaments than just the actual tennis part. Um, so and that 100% like went into like wins and losses for sure. If I felt like I was, fully prepared, and I felt like I was completely disciplined with everything else that like leading up to the matches and taking care of myself after the matches, I felt like I did do better in the tournaments.
I love that answer. As kind of a follow up, we kind of we could shift from there and maybe talk about the mental side a little bit. You obviously have played a lot of matches.
Mm-hmm.
What is something that, anyone who's competing can be doing? Obviously, tennis at the highest level, it's not just a physical battle, it's mental, right?
Right.
It's mental warfare. You're going at it both, with your opponent, but kind of against yourself, holding yourself to the high standard, trying to execute, trying to problem solve in order to really grow and learn at their best rate. After a tennis match, what is your opinion on the best way to reflect, whether it be a win or a loss? I know some people, they might be journaling their matches. They immediately talk to their coach. Some people don't talk about their matches for an entire day, so they have a chance to, decompress because they don't. What is your take on that? What do you feel like players should do after their matches?
I think everyone handles wins and losses differently. I don't think there's really one way that you have to do it. I know for me, I was someone that I just needed maybe a little bit of time to myself. That's like 15, 30 minutes or so. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was ready to talk about it. I wanted to talk when it was still fresh in my mind. Um, and then, this is what everyone says, that if you want to be a pro tennis player, you need to have like the shortest memory ever. Like you have to be able to move on like very, very quickly, because I think you said this also, like every week everyone is going to lose except for one person every single week. And so you're going to lose a whole lot more than you're going to win. That's most everyone on tour. So you have to get used to losing and being able to move on and playing again next week and again next week and probably losing again, right? At some point. And so you have to be able to handle losses and know how to like learn from them. And it's way more about learning from them than being, disappointed in them. And like it's more about the learning and then, talking it through with your team, your coach, and then working on, what you can do better in the next match. Um, and so I think like, if you have that kind of mentality from the losses, then you're probably going to move forward. If you don't have that mentality, then it's going to be pretty hard for you. So that's mentality I mostly stuck with for most of my career, which was helpful. I tried not to get too down on myself. But then, yeah, like there's players that don't want to talk about the match for like the entire day. They wait and they don't want to talk about it until like the next day with their team. So yeah, I don't think there's one way. I think it's everyone handles like them differently, and but yeah, if you're a pro on tour, like people definitely have short memory for sure.
Yeah. And I think just to kind of throw some additional perspective on top of that, if maybe parents are listening to this, from my experience, if you have a player living in your house and you're with them at a tournament and after a match they want to talk, let them talk. If they don't want to talk, that is not something you want to force. At the end of the day, if you want your child or the young person living in your home to have a lot of success, they have to love the game. And so
Mm-hmm.
forcing them to do that part they maybe don't love, yes, reflection is key. Maybe talk to their coach. The coach could encourage them if they're not, at an event to be writing down specific things so they can review it with their coach later. But you're not the coach. You don't have to drill them with 30 questions or th- this is your chance to kind of be the fun parent. If they have a bad match, they gotta own up to that and talk to their coach about it. You don't have to be the one that gets onto them. Allow them to essentially, if it's a bad match, go through those thoughts, sort their thoughts, calm down, have some space. I'll tell you right now, nothing makes a young person feel more trapped than when they're on a long car ride and nowhere to go, and you are grilling them with questions and they're already upset. It is traumatic. If you
Yeah.
want to put strain on your relationship with your child, get them in a car for 2 hours after a loss that they're already mad about and make them talk about it. They will not like you as a person. I guarantee it. So that's just a little tangent. We'll keep going. Melanie, I would love to, with you being obviously a female player that's had a lot of success, but also as a coach. At some point, as the Grassroots Tennis Pod grows, we're trying to have conversations that don't expire. This be just advice that anybody could go back and look at it and learn from a female perspective. You've, I'm sure, coached young men and young women.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that a female tennis player, especially a young female tennis player, can do to kind of set themselves apart from the crowd, whether it's, something they can do that really you feel like leads to great results, or if they're trying to stand out from a recruiting perspective, a skill set or something that you're like, when I see a female player any age that does this well, they stand out from the crowd. What would you say to those people?
I think it's so much more than having a good forehand and backhand these days. I think, so many players have a good forehand and backhand. Um, I feel like I always go back to the mentality part. Also, it's just like it's the demeanor on court and like your body language and like the way that you carry yourself. Also your will to win and like your fight and um how much that you show that you want it. I think that, you know, nowadays I feel like I haven't seen that as much as I would like to in a lot of the players that I've seen. Sometimes having to like push a little bit more than you'd want to. And like if there's just not that, I guess, desire, I feel like is the right word. Um, Compared to maybe when I was coming up and like maybe looking at some of my peers and, you know, like the hunger, like the hungriness, like, I coach a joke with me, like these players from all these other countries in Russia and in um South America and in Africa, like who have like nothing and they want to get to the United States, to play college tennis or to go pro, and like they don't have hardly half the things that we have in the United States. And it shows when they play, right? It shows how much that they want it. It shows just the desire and like the will, not even to win, but like how much they love the game, like, and how much they just want to, like, tennis is going to help them, get there. There is going to help their dreams come true. And I think that like that, showing that in your game, showing that in your tennis would 100% set you apart. Because that's something that I haven't seen as much in a lot of the players that I've been seeing while coaching these days. So I think that would be something like really, when I say, you look for something really special and a lot of the, something special in the players, and that would definitely set them apart.
I totally agree. That would have been, I feel like for me, there's like a 1A and a 1B, and that's definitely 1A. It's right there. I feel like that attitude, and you can even see that kind of that mentality or the way they're carrying themselves off the
Mm-hmm.
court too. It's the conversation. It's how do they talk to their parents, to their peers, how to their, like, all of that included with what you do.
Yes.
All of that mentality, huge. My 1B, just from a someone who's watched a lot of tennis and watched a lot of girls tennis, uh, from a technical standpoint, I also feel like something that maybe stands out that people don't realize. If you are a female tennis player and I'm watching you, I feel like it's with the girls even more so than the guys. Very noticeable girls who have extremely good serve plus one skills or like their pattern play compared to
Mm-hmm.
girls who are just these, they're both great athletes, but the one who's relying on athleticism, their speed and their reaction, sometimes that person who's relying on those skills, they are, they're the winner. But if I see someone, it's like, wow, they just executed that serve, first ball behind, and then all of a sudden they're moving in because they see you block, they pick off a volley. If you are a female player and I see you, I feel like transition skills is what separates the different levels of players. Your ability to close the net and to finish. And if you're able to do that with the closing of the net and things
Yep.
like that, oh my gosh, it's so noticeable. Do you not feel like you see that as well?
Oh yeah, 100%. I didn't know we were talking about like tactical, like
Well,
technical
any
stuff.
of it. Yeah.
But 100%, I agree. Like, I mean, that's something, like, I would say one huge focus at pretty much every USTA camp that I've done, a humongous focus is transition.
Hmm.
So you're dead on with that. Like, and this is with the 12 and under camps, is like every single one has had transition as like a huge focus. Um and I think that that is like huge. That would be a huge thing, especially in the girls' game, um, to have, because so many of them, obviously, like, I mean, it's just true. Like, so many girls up until the 18s, right? Like, don't have the strongest net game, right? And
Hmm.
so if you did, right, in the serve plus one is 100%. That's exactly on. You're exactly right on that too. But having that strong net game would be a huge bonus.
And for those people that are trying to improve that part of your game, something I'll just throw on additionally is when you hit the ball, but then also recognize very early that that your opponent is going to have to block or play up to you, and you're getting there fast enough to get that ball while it's still above the net, so you can play down and through the court. I mean, it's so noticeable. Or even um, some additional things that maybe if I anytime I see a girl that is ex- implementing a slice backhand to where they're dictating with a slice backhand those continental grip skills, I'm like, dang, who is this girl? It's so
Mm-hmm.
impressive. But maybe that goes back to like Steffi Graf. She's got the backhand slice, but you don't see that from a ton of female players. But when you can, and not just use it as a defensive tool, but as a weapon or as a part of your transition moving forward, realizing my ball's sitting up too much, I'm going to slice that instead, keep it low, and then pick off that volley, stands out so much. And then the 1C for me is always be working on your serves and returns. Girls that can hit their spots. You don't have to be the 6 foot tall girl. If you're hitting your spots and setting your points, it's super noticeable. If you're getting free points from your serve, it's super noticeable. And on the return, not someone that just gets every ball back, but the girl that you can tell is practiced enough that they're attacking returns. Those things to me, it's just from here to here, just the raise of level for sure. So
Yep.
I know a tangent. I took over. I didn't mean to, but I get excited when
No.
you see a girl player doing that. It's noticeable. The transitions, it's huge, huge, and you got to have those things to be able to move forward that much. Oh man, so we're going to pivot that just slightly. Now that you've played, that you've coached, you probably have a lot of favorite drills or just favorite practice techniques or secrets or strategies, things that you think are a staple, to maybe a good player. Let's say that a good player, they come to you, right? And by good player, intermediate or above, whenever they're playing, you can see that, they don't necessarily need an immediate technical change to their forehand, backhand serve. Let's say they're fundamentally pretty good, right? But they want to go from good to great or even great to excellent or excellent to elite. What is a drill or something that someone can implement when they are looking to take their game to the next level?
So 100% right now, like with the game, I would say I would do movement drills with them,
Mm-hmm.
because, like I talked about, like, besides the mentality, the physicality right now in the game is just insane. Like,
It is.
it's everyone is stronger, fitter, faster. So I would do different types of like movement drills, um, like side to side drills, like forward backward drills, like the X drill, making sure they're cutting off corners and moving at diagonal. Um, and like I would obviously like look at the movement and see kind of where they struggle the most. Obviously, most people struggle, right, with the forward backward movement the most, instead of like side to side, or like that diagonal movement, moving backwards or cutting off angles. Um, so I would do like more of those type of drills, like 2 and 1, or 3 and 1, like 3 cross 1 line, 2 cross 1 line. And then I would do the X drill, things like that. And then then I would do some like just side to side and see how they do also with like 20 balls, like side to side, and see how they did with that too. So testing like all of the different movements and see like with kind of some feeding, and then progress to like live ball and see
Yeah.
how they did with that too. But yeah, the movement I would 100% do that, because that's like the number one thing in the game right now.
I think that's huge, and people need to hear that more often. It's really, you have to improve that movement piece. If you look at the top females in the game right now, obviously Iga Swiatek, when she's playing, what's making her so great? Obviously, she's got the shots, but she is so fast. She's so
Mhm.
fast, and she knows where you're going, and she can execute, do whatever, and that's why she's even more crazy hard to beat on that clay. It's like, are you gonna hit? I'm gonna make you hit the winner 6 times. That's what I'm gonna make you do. It's so impressive, and then obviously when she gets the right ball, she can turn around, go defense to offense. And then you look at someone who dominated right before that, like Ash Barty. Ash Barty or Iga Swiatek, it's their anticipation, but also just their
Right.
athleticism. Either one of them, you could tell me if you disagree, but I feel like they're such great athletes, not just tennis players, that if they wanted to, and they're like, I want to do something else for fun when I'm done with tennis. I don't want to play tennis anymore. Burnout kind of Ash was ready to do something else. I guarantee if Ash Barty tried to spend some time working hard to make the Olympics with the Australian like European handball team, where she's running around catching, throwing, whatever. I feel like she could pick up another sport and be extremely good at it because these are just great athletes. Period.
So 100%. 100%. They're both like amazing athletes, and you hit it exactly right. Their anticipation is what is so good. And that's something else that like I mean they do extremely well that a lot of players need more work on is like different types of like reaction drills, right? Because before you can actually move to the ball, right, you have to like anticipate it. You have to actually like read it and then react to it and then you move to it. And so a lot of players like it's not that they're actually slow, it's the fact that they're not anticipating or reading the ball early enough in order to move to it on time. And so there's other like reading and reaction drills that I'll do with players also because you can tell that like sometimes the players are so quick, right? And you're like, how are they not getting to the ball? Like they're so fast, right? When they run sprints or do different types of things in fitness, but then you watch them play and you're like they seem so slow, right? When they move on tennis court, and it's because they're reading the ball so slow.
For coaches or players listening to this, could you maybe talk through the setup for one of those read in reaction drills that you like to use?
So I actually start with not doing anything with a racket. So I'm on one side of the court and the players on the other side of the court, and I'll have them start the baseline with no racket, and I'll be on the other side with my racket with a basket, and I will have the player like completely read and react to my feed, and they'll also have to go and catch the ball with one bounce to start. And I will feed to anywhere in the court, anywhere in the court. So like random feeding. This way also it kind of works on the hand-eye coordination too, which you'd be surprised at how many players cannot catch a ball with one hand.
Preach it. Preach it. Preach it. Play catch, people. Preach. It's crazy. Oh my gosh, it's so nuts.
And this is like 14-year-olds. Like I'm like, have you guys ever tried catching a ball before with one hand, like with their non-dominant hand? They're like, I don't remember the last time I did that. And I'm like, why not? Why did you not ever do this before? So I'm like, we definitely need to practice this.
Attention to
Um,
young people. Attention to young people. Get outside and play. Go
yeah,
have fun outside. Go touch grass. Please get outside, play catch, do something like play catch with your offhand or like, I don't know. I remember growing up and you'd be outside and you'd be playing catch. It's like, okay, now you got to catch with your left hand. Now you got to catch with your right hand. Now you run. I'm going to throw it. You got to get it. Just you're bored doing whatever. I don't know. They don't, do they go outside when they're not playing? I don't know. Sorry, tangent, but it's nuts. Is it not? It's just a
no,
different
it really
generation.
is. It is nuts. I mean, like this should already been like handled and practiced when you were like 8,
Yep.
before 10 years old, you know?
Parents, do us a favor. When your child is a toddler, sit them on the ground on their bottom, toss the ball out to the right side or out to their left side, make them fall like a goalie, reach out with the only one hand, stop and or catch the ball, roll it back to you. And do that for as long as they'll do it. It's a super fun game. Have you played catch with your child? It's extremely valuable. Just throw, you will save so much money in lessons if you just play catch with your kid. It's amazing. Just throwing that out there. We would love it if you would play catch with your kid. So then we can work on more advanced things than how to catch the ball. Anyway, let's move to the next question. I feel like I'm being a jerk now. I'm not trying to be a jerk. People need to hear it. It's so basic. And that's something parents could do for free. Oh, man. I don't know. Okay. Sorry. Gets me fired up. And it's funny. It's funny.
No,
I can't
I
handle it.
know.
Oh, man. Okay. So you've obviously played tennis uh, at a very high level. Is there anything about the way that junior tennis is currently structured in the United States, or maybe at the professional level, that you would like to see change? This is your chance to kind of get your thoughts on that out there. Is there anything that you think needs to be different than the way it's currently structured?
Um, People are probably not gonna like me saying this, but I hate UTR.
Preach. Yes, I actually agree with you. I think it's a flawed system, but keep going.
I think it is one of the worst things to happen to junior tennis because of the way it's not about the structure of it. It's not about the structure of it. It's not about like UTR as like anything wrong with UTR. I don't have any problems with UTR. It's what it does to the kids, is what it does to the parents, and how obsessed
They're obsessed.
every single person is with it.
It leads to
That is the
match
problem.
dodging. They're not playing the matches that they should be getting because of it. So frustrating.
That is the problem. I mean, I there like before, I mean, when I was younger and I think about like before all that came out, like there was nothing wrong with USTA rankings. Like there was nothing wrong with it. And if you were good enough, if you were good, your ranking would be good and you would make it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're good, your ranking will be good enough. Like
Mm-hmm.
your ranking will show. Like it doesn't, it's not going to be, oh, it's not right, or like mine's not going to be as high as someone else's. It's like, okay, well, maybe you're not winning enough matches. Like
Yeah.
I'm not trying, I know I'm being a little bit blunt, but that's really the truth. Like if you're good enough, your ranking will be good enough. If you're winning
I
enough matches, your ranking will show it. And I just feel like what how obsessed people are with UTR has made like people aren't like the whole thing I was saying with like being hungry and like wanting to go out there and like have this match, have as many matches as possible, and like this desire to go out there and fight and win. And people are just like, oh, I only have to get 7 games against this person to make sure to make sure my UTR goes. I'm like, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Or like, oh gosh, like I gotta make sure I don't lose so many games, or my UTR is gonna go down, or I don't want to play this person because oh gosh, my UTR might go down. Like I need to default in consolation because my UTR might go down. Like those being afraid to play someone, like that is not the mindset of being a good tennis player and of having of improving in tennis and having this good long junior tennis career. Like you got to have the mindset of getting better and improving and developing. And how can you have that when you're afraid to play someone, or thinking about how many games you've lost during the match because you're
mm-hmm.
afraid of what your UTR is going to be after you play that match. Like that is the opposite of what you should be thinking about, and these kids should be thinking about. They should be thinking about their development and their improvement and their game style and their strategy and their tactics. And like, yeah, clearly
I,
this is what I'm like passionate about.
I
I don't like the mindset of it, what it's done to the players, and the parents obviously are even more obsessed than the kids, and they put so much pressure on themselves. It's like it's just this whole mindset it's done to everyone is just, it just really bothers me, and I just feel like the success, like a lot of the kids at these tournaments, is just it's not doing, I feel like, what maybe people hoped it would have done.
I know how to fix it. I do. I do. I actually liked early UTR better than I do kind of their current algorithm. as it's went on, I feel like they've changed some things I don't like as much. And it does lead to match dodging and such. And here's how you fix that. I feel like here are some of my takeaways. And here's why. Like you just said about the working on your development. Anybody go back and watch a Roger Federer match early in a slam. Go watch it. Is he, yeah, he's playing hard, but he has to save his energy for later rounds, and he knows that. Those years when he was killing people, even in early rounds, you go look at it and it's like, what did he win? 6-4, 6-4, 6-3, or 6-2. Was he freaking out that he gave up 4 games in the first, 2 sets or whatever? It's not every match. Sometimes he would demolish people because he was feeling it that day. But what was he doing? He was working on his patterns. He was okay with some misses. He was just making sure, hey, he was so good at serving and holding serve. He knew all I got to do is hold serve every time. I'll get at least 1 break per set. And that's what he did. And then the rest of the time he was, are my feet right? Is my breathing right? Am I preparing? And he was using those matches to prepare for later in the match. Anybody who's watching knew, oh, he's got another gear. In those first couple rounds, they knew he had another gear. So that's kind of something you go watch to understand what you really should be focused on in matches. At the end of the day, it's did you win or not, right? And I don't care if you won 7-6, 7-6. You got the win. That's great. But if you lose, obviously you want to be as competitive as possible. You want to be in the match. So here's how you fix it. The higher level person, UTR's got to find a way to adjust their algorithm so that once you get to, let's say you've established that you're an 8, right? We'll start there. You establish that you're an 8 UTR. If you're an 8 UTR and you're playing someone that is a 6 and you give them too many games, I think that match should help the lower UTR person, but should not hurt the upper UTR person. I think that in order for your UTR to go down, once you've established it, should be say, hey, you've got to lose so many matches in a row to someone at a lower UTR. And then at that case, it's like, you just lost 5 times in a row to someone 1 to 2 points lower than you. Okay, well, maybe you're rated slightly too high. But when every single match counts that way, I think that's what causes a problem for those people who are higher that are putting too much weight, overthinking. So I'd like to see that change. But then secondly, for people who maybe are from a smaller area and don't have as many people to play, they put in this rule that if they're not within 2 points, the match doesn't even count for bringing your UTR up. And so if you are getting punished for where you live geographically, maybe you're not getting the opportunity to play high UTR players as often. And then I literally know players that were getting exponentially better, but we're stuck at the same UTR for 4 years because they're this close. And I know you got to get the wins, and they were getting some wins, but in their losses, if you're consistently losing, let's say your UTR is stuck at an 8 and you're consistently losing in third set tiebreakers or winning a set and then losing a tight match, and it's like I won 7-5, I lost 6-4, and then I lost 11-9. But because they were a 10.5 or a 10-7-5, your UTR doesn't go up at all. But you're consistently going 3 sets with people, or like when you're losing these people, it's like 6-4, 7-5. That's ridiculous, and it's punishing the person underneath. They need to fix the algorithm so that the person who the lower UTR benefits from going out and playing a lot of matches, and if they're doing well, even if they're not winning, they can even go up incrementally and slowly. And then the person at the top, they shouldn't be punished just for giving away some games in one match.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to, because otherwise you can't, we're just talking about girls closing the net. If you're like, man, this girl's 2 UTR points below me, it's an early round match. What would I like to see doing back today before UTR? I would have told them, hey, if you get up 3-0, 4-0, serve and volley today. Hey, you get up 3 or 4-0, work on your slice, work on this, work on that, work on your patterns. And now it's like they're just playing safe, keep the ball in play, don't give away games. And it's hurting players' development. They need to make a change to the algorithm so the higher level person doesn't get punished. And then we're still rewarding those lower level people for going out there, competing hard and getting those games. It's not that hard to adjust the algorithm. And then I think it fixes it. That's my take. I know that's really long. I talk too much. This is your interview, but I get so I get fired up about UTR. You're right. It needs changed or fixed or something. It's got to be something. That's a great take. My next question was literally, do you have any tennis hot takes, things that you're really passionate about? Do you have any other ones? Because I feel like yours was pretty good. I don't know. Is there anything else you're passionate about?
Um, well, I mean, that's a big one, but also, and we did talk about like the movement thing. I think just one thing about just all the academies that I've seen, I mean, all the kids that I've seen, and then obviously I've kind of asked them about like their academies and things like that. And then the kids that I work with individually that train at different academies. Um, I just think movement is something that's not worked on enough. Um, I just really, really want more of the academies to be focused more on specific tennis footwork. I think that that needs to be more of a focus. And, I get it. Like with big groups and stuff, it's hard. And like, I know fitness coaches, like they think they know everything. And like, I get it. Like they do know a lot, but a lot of them don't know specific tennis footwork. And so that has to be added to the fitness portion, the strength and conditioning portion of fitness. And because of so many kids that I see, they have no idea how to move on a tennis court. They don't know how to move correctly on a tennis court. They don't know correct footwork, like technique on a tennis court. And a lot of them are like way too good and they should know, or they're way too old to not know. Um, and so I'm just seeing it like over and over and over and over. And like out so many different I'm asking these kids, oh, what do you do for fitness at your academy? And they tell me, what do you do for fitness in your academy? And they tell me, and none of it is specific for work for tennis. It's all like in a gym, or it's all,
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere else. And it's none of it is on a tennis court, and none of it is like actual fitness, like tennis movement, which needs to be, yes, you need to do other things, but you have to make sure that you're doing that kind of movement, especially if you haven't worked on it. If no, people have to correct it. They have to
Mm-hmm.
take the time, and I know it's hard and it's like tiring, you know, and it takes time to like stand there and like correct someone's footwork technique, you know. But like it needs to be done because a lot of these kids like have no idea how to move on a tennis court. So that's something that I feel like really, really needs to be fixed in a lot of these academies.
I get a lot of players that come my way that maybe haven't had a personal coach yet, or they've worked in a group setting within an academy of some kind, maybe in a different within an hour and a half in any direction or whatever. They're looking for affordable, more kind of personal coaching. And I cannot tell you how many times these players, boys and girls, that have been playing, oh yeah, I've been playing since I was 8. I've been playing since, and they'll be in high school, and I'd be like, okay, well, we're going to work on your wide ball crossover recovery step. And they're like, what's a crossover step? What's a crossover recovery step? I'm like,
Right.
are you joking? And then I'm
Exactly.
like, okay, well, on this drill working, um, I know that it looks like you like to hit your pro shot with a step through on the ball, but we're gonna do a hop step. Can you do a hop step for me? And they're like, I don't know what that is. I'm like, or on defense, they don't know how to move backwards, and when they're playing a defensive ball, to jump and switch feet so they stay balanced, so they land, so they can recover. I'm like, has nobody ever shown you how these steps work? Moving on from that question, I wanted to obviously be respectful of your time. I've only got 3 or 4 questions left. I really quickly want to ask you, if you could go back and give advice to your 13-year-old self, what would that be?
Oh, that's a good question. I do think that I overtrained when I was younger. I think that that is something that did um help lead to some of my injuries and health issues in the future. Like I think like not really the health issues. There's nothing I could have done about those, but I do think that I did overtrain a little bit. Um I was always like a rep player. I like did well like the more reps that I had, but sometimes I think I overdid it a little bit. But honestly, like, you know, I was like that player that was there at the courts before everybody else, and I left at the end of the day after everybody else left for the day. You know, I was the player that, like, I mean, the kid that got up in the morning like at 6 a.m. to go run, like without my parents having to wake me up in the morning when I was 12 years old. Like, um, you know, I wanted it more than anything. Like, you know, no one really had to like push me to want it. Like, I wanted it for myself. Um, so as far as like tennis goes, um, I don't really know if like there's something that I would have like done differently. I really felt like I gave everything that I had, especially like in the juniors. I mean, I really did. I think maybe I would have like tried to like, I would have told myself to be a little bit more of like an actual kid.
Yeah.
I think I was like so focused on tennis, like, but I don't necessarily like regret it, because it helped me get to where I wanted to go. Because, and I really did love it, and I wasn't being pushed by anyone else. Like, it was actually me pushing myself. But yes, I would say like I probably could have like relaxed a little bit more, like enjoyed a little bit more of like time with friends, or like just actually being a kid a little bit more.
I like that answer a lot. Uh, Another thing I wanted to ask you is, what is your happiest tennis moment?
Oh, happiest tennis moment. I mean, it has to be playing on Arthur Ashe Stadium. Like when I made the quarterfinals of the US Open in 2009, because like getting like playing on Arthur Ashe Stadium is like the goal when you're an American tennis player. Like when you're a kid, that's like the big stadium, right? And so
Right.
it's like that's the dream. That's the dream. I feel like that was my dream when I was a kid. You know, it's like being able to play there and like play on that court and like look up and see all those people and have all of them like cheering for me was like the craziest thing ever. And then having all of them cheer for me and getting like a standing ovation like after I played like Maria Sharapova, and then winning a couple more matches after that like was pretty crazy. And then having just people cheering for me was just, it was a pretty amazing like moment. It was almost like all the work I had done, you know, leading up to that was like so worth it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
getting to be able to play there, and it was like I had really achieved like what I really wanted to. So
It's crazy how one moment can make everything feel like it's worth it. It really is.
yeah.
Sometimes that's all it takes. Here at the Grassroots Tennis Pod, we believe in giving people their flowers. Who is someone underappreciated in the tennis community? Could be a
Under
coach, a community leader, a tournament director, a volunteer, somebody that you know puts a lot of work in, but maybe doesn't always get the shine that they deserve.
I feel like there's like so many people.
There are.
Wait, like so many people that I could say. Um, so many people I feel like do a lot for tennis that I know. I mean, the first person that comes to mind, I feel like she is appreciated, but I feel like she could be more appreciated. And I feel like someone that's done a lot for me personally, as a coach, another female, was a female coach and now is like kind of the director of Southern, is Maria Sircone. And she's been pretty much like a mentor to me since I started my coaching career. I used to play juniors with her daughter when she
Mhm.
was actually in the Florida section, and now she's in the Southern section. And I just feel like sometimes she doesn't get quite enough credit for everything that she does for the Southern section. Um, and she's just such an amazing person. Like, she such an amazing coach. Um,
she does so much for like the section and for like the USTA, and has done so much for like me and my coaching career going forward. And so I'm really looking forward to like working with her. And she's done so much. I wanted to say our last camp that we did actually, that she made happen, which was like really, really special. Our last USTA Southern camp, and she asked me if I would be the lead coach at the camp. It was the first section camp to have to be the Southern camp, and it was the first integrated camp where we had wheelchair junior tennis players as well as able-bodied tennis players, and it's the first section that's ever had that. So it was really, really cool to be a part of that. And she's the one that like helped make that happen.
No, I love that. That's a great answer. There's so many underappreciated people in tennis, and even just to shout out one, I feel like goes a long way. It's a conversation that needs to continue to be had. You as a coach, as much time as I'm sure you invest and spend with your players, they become like family. And this is a profession where it's really easy, whether you're a volunteer, a coach, or just a community leader, to kind of feel underappreciated. And so I think that's a great answer. Last question, Melanie. Who do you think needs to come on the Grassroots Tennis Podcast? Keep in mind, whoever you say, you have to help us get them on the pod. I've been trying to encourage people to give me two answers. I've been trying to get them to give me a player. Doesn't matter the level, could be professional at any level of professions, a college player, or even a junior player who's just passionate about tennis. And then obviously coaches, community leaders, someone from that spectrum. Because if you give me two, hopefully I can eventually at least get one of them. Who do you think has a tennis brain or a story that we got to hear? Who do we need to talk to?
Well, I would say Allison Risk is one one of my good friends, and so she would be a great one.
Phenomenal.
She laughs a lot. She's very funny. Like, she would be amazing to have, I think. She tells great stories. And then, I mean, the best storyteller that I know is Tom Gullickson.
Oh yeah, those would both be great interviews, both of them.
He's the best storyteller that I know. So when you said storyteller, I automatically think of him. So I think either of those would be really great to have.
Well, Melanie, I just want to thank you again for coming on the pod today. I just think that this is something we need to continue to have good conversations. That's the only way that the game grows. Tennis is the ultimate sport of giving back. So I just, thank you for giving back. Thank you for coming on and having a conversation with us.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me, and I really enjoyed it.
If you like what we're doing here at the Grassroots Tennis Pod, all you listeners out there, make sure to take the time to subscribe on YouTube and Spotify, and make sure to share this with someone you know loves tennis. Then you can give us a follow on socials, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We're doing follow for follow. Yes, if you follow us, we will follow back. We're all friends here. If you're a friend of the pod, we want to follow you too. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Grassroots Tennis Pod, Twitter at G Tennis Pod, because for some reason Twitter says that handle is too long and it's really annoying and kind of driving my OCD crazy, but it is what it is. And if you have follow-up questions for Melanie, or maybe questions about things we're doing at the pod, or you know someone who should be on the Grassroots Tennis Podcast, you can email us at grassrootstennispod@gmail.com. Melanie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, take care.